Hey everybody, how's it going? I know we're ramping up with Seahawks stuff now and everybody's kind of thinking about football at this point, but the local baseball team continues to play competitive baseball and continues to be involved in the playoff hunt. So we're going to set aside a little bit of time to talk about them. The Seattle Mariners are now 105 games into their 2021 season, and they still have a winning record. They are still well positioned to compete for a wild card spot, and the team just continues to overachieve. So, first of all, this page is a little out of date. The Mariners lost last night, or actually tonight. I'm going to be uploading this video rather late because whatever, but the Mariners lost earlier tonight. Frustrating game, extra innings against Texas, but overall, the performance of this team over the last couple weeks has been very good. But before we get into what this team has done in terms of winning and losing, we have to talk about the trade deadline. And the team was somewhat active over the trade deadline. They made one move that was very controversial and seemingly quite bad. And then they made a couple other moves that looked like they were fine. So before we get into what the team did over the last 2 weeks on the diamond, let's talk about what they did off the diamond. So 3 trades basically. They acquired relief pitcher Diego Castillo from the Rays in exchange for JT Chargois, Chargois, who the hell knows? It doesn't really matter now, right? And prospect Austin Shenton. Second trade was acquiring left-handed starting pitcher Tyler Anderson from Pittsburgh for Carter Binns, and there were a couple other assets involved in that trade as well coming from us. And the third trade, and the controversial one, the one that got some people a little heated, was sending Kendall Graveman and Rafael Montero to the Astros for utility player Abraham Toro and right-handed pitcher Joe Smith. Now, we've actually seen all 4 of these players play for the Mariners at this point. It's been what, 3 or 4 games since these trades were made. We've now seen all 4 of these players play at least some for the Seattle Mariners, so we can start to evaluate these trades. But let's talk about it. So this trade, I think, was a really solid one, and it really helped bring back people from the ledge after the Graveman trade. We got a really good reliever, and I understand he blew an opportunity at a save tonight. He gave up a home run in extra innings to lose the game. Honestly, when you're putting a pitcher in that situation, it's really hard to get out of it with the save. That's just the way extra inning rules are right now. But obviously, he's going to have to hear it from the internet for a few days at least, because I know there are going to be Mariners fans on Facebook saying, you know, Graveman would have saved that game. Graveman would have gotten out of that. But I think this was a really nice trade. We picked up a really good relief pitcher, and he's going to be our new closer now. We are basically making a bet that in the short term, Castillo can be about as good as Graveman was, if not better, and that Castillo can be a part of this team going forward, whereas Graveman was going to be a free agent next year, so we may have lost him. Now, for all we know, we're going to end up getting Graveman back next year. So we gave up JT, and JT was playing pretty well, but I think Castillo has proven that he's of a different caliber than a guy like JT. So this was a good trade. He saved the game last night, so we did see him have a good 9th inning, 3 up, 3 down last night, and then tonight he got the 10th inning start and didn't work out. Next trade was Tyler Anderson from the Pirates. We saw him start tonight, and we got pretty much exactly what we can reasonably expect. He pitched pretty well, ended up with the no decision, gave up 3 runs in 5 1/3 inning, I think. So he pitched fine, gave up a 2-run shot, got beat up a little bit in, I think, the 5th before getting pulled, but ended up with 3 earned runs against. And he's exactly what you would expect for a cheap starting pitcher that you acquire at the deadline from a bad team. He's going to be very, very okay. And in the first start, that's what we got. He's not the reason why we lost tonight. Now, this final trade is the one that got people kind of incensed. Graveman and Montero to the Astros. And right then and there, you can be like, wait a minute, why are we sending our best bullpen arm to a division rival that we might be competing with for the division? And we acquired a utility player who hasn't really done that much good in his career yet, and an anonymous pitcher. Now, we did get rid of Montero, who was very much awful, but that's not what people are really focused on in this trade. They're talking about the Graveman thing. So here's going to be my perspective on it as of right now. And obviously, as we see more from some of the other guys we got, things will change. But here's what I say right now. Graveman had been in the league for, I think this was his 11th year, and he had never been as good as he was this year. He had always been a very, very forgettable player, I think. As far as I know, when I looked it up, there really wasn't a whole lot going on in his career until this year. He just suddenly turned into Mariano Rivera. And there is something to be said for selling high on a player. And there is something to be said about using an asset who's going to probably not be on the team next year because his contract's expiring, to get players who fill needs and can be around for maybe a little bit longer, like Toro. Now, we have the benefit of hindsight with Abraham Toro. He's been killing it since he got here. He's got 2 home runs. I think he has like 7 RBIs. He's got a couple doubles. He's got 2 infield singles. A couple of his outs have been hit really well, and the outfielder just makes a great play on it. So we have the benefit of hindsight here. But even without that, I think it's very reasonable to assume that Graveman can be replaced adequately by Castillo. And I know right now is not the best time to say that, but theoretically, Castillo should be able to replace Graveman's production and ability. So we flip Graveman and we pick up a much-needed utility player, Abraham Toro, who I think is going to try to hold down the fort at second base because we needed a second baseman, but he can play elsewhere too, which is very valuable. And while it's a very small sample size, so far the dude, excuse me, has been raking, hit 2 home runs against his former team, and then continued to hit very well so far in this Texas series. And Joe Smith, he pitched a little bit tonight, nothing much to say there, but the thing is, and I do think there is some validity here, is the emotional reaction from this team after the Graveman trade was strong. Players were very pissed off that we had traded Graveman. There was equipment broken in the locker room. There were players sounding off in ways that were very negative. There was the obvious knee-jerk reaction to trading your best bullpen pitcher when you're maybe making a playoff push to a division rival. But even if you put all that stuff to the side, you can't let emotions rule the way you run your team. And the reality is, while this team has a chance to make the playoffs, and I very much want them to make the playoffs this year, this Mariners team as constructed is not going to win the World Series, and that has to be the goal. The goal is not to make the playoffs this year. The goal has to be to win the World Series in 2 years, or 3 years, or maybe even next year. So they felt like these trades helped advance us in those regards. So I'm going to have to live with it. It hurt a little bit, but I think we came out pretty well at this trade deadline. Okay, now let's talk about what the team has actually been doing on the diamond over the last couple weeks. Since our last video, they took care of business against Oakland in a huge 4-game series. They ended up winning the last 3 games by 1 run in each game. They continue to find a way to win those close games. They needed all 3 of those wins because they were coming off a 2-game skid. It seemed like the wheels might fall off the season, but then they just got it done in 3 close games. And then they had that miracle comeback win against Houston in a game that I wasn't even really paying attention to because I thought we were punting on it because of who we were starting on the mound. It was, to me, the definition of a throwaway game. And to find a way to win that game, it was special. There have been a few special moments for the Mariners in recent years, even though it hasn't amounted to a playoff berth yet. I think there was a game where we came back from a 12-run deficit against the Padres like 4 years ago. Stuff like that. A lot of walk-off home runs a few years ago. One of those Cano, Cruz, Seager years. I think I remember there was one season where we just kept hitting walk-off home runs. There's been some cool stuff. That one was right up there because I wasn't even mad when we were getting our asses kicked. I wasn't even upset about it at all because I fully expected it. And then the team just finds a ridiculous way to win. I wasn't even mad when Houston took care of us the next 2 days. And then you get to last night and tonight. Take care of Texas yesterday. Good game. Kelnick might be finding himself. Cal Riley, the numbers aren't there yet, but I like what I see from him so far. And then, of course, tonight, tough loss, but you can't win every close game. Okay, so as for how players are playing, Crawford's cooling off, unfortunately. I knew he was sun running to a certain extent. I did not think that Crawford was going to be able to keep it up to that degree, but it's been a little unfortunate to see him just trail off. We only need him to be a slightly below average to average hitter, and his shortstop defense is good enough to carry him. But, yeah, he's cooled off a little bit, but this team now has enough quality bats, and that's including the guy we just got in that trade, Mr. Toro, to where that's no longer a make-or-break issue. We can survive J.P. Crawford suddenly not playing that well because Mitch Haniger's been playing great. Kyle Seager's going through a little bit of a hot streak right now. He had a home run tonight. I think he had a home run the day before as well. He's got his Ops Plus back up above 100. Ty France is playing pretty well for the most part. Torrens Ops Plus above 110 now. What a turnaround for a guy. I've said this before, but I completely gave up on him. So, there's a lot wrong with this team right now. Fraley went back on the injured list. Hopefully he gets back soon. I think he will be back pretty soon, and we need him. But this team is surviving fairly well without him. They're surviving well without Kyle Lewis. And by the way, he should be back in about a month, hopefully. Tom Murphy's playing a little bit better, I think. Cal Riley looks like a Major League Baseball level player. Kelnick looks like a Major League Baseball level player this time around. There's just a lot working in this lineup right now, and they can survive one or two players having a bit of a cold streak. So that's the most exciting thing right now, I think. As for the pitching, well, we'll see about the bullpen. I think this team is making a reasonable bet that Graveman is not going to, like I said, Graveman is not going to have a ton more value to this team than Castillo is going to have, but time will tell. I mean, there's no denying that Graveman was pitching incredibly well. His ERA plus was an unsustainable 509, and I'm not saying he was that good, but he was playing that good. So, bullpen-wise, time will tell. Anthony Sandwich has actually been pitching a little better lately. I do think Castillo is good. I know, again, right now is not the greatest time to say that, but Sewald pitching well. We lost Santiago, which sucks, but Steckenrider's been pitching really well. Swanson pitching unsustainably well. So I actually, if you really look at this, there are a lot of guys in this bullpen this team has reason to like right now and has reason to believe are going to be able to replace Graveman. So the more I digest this trade, the more I'm pretty cool with it. As for the starters, we're going to learn a lot about Marco tomorrow, or by the time you're watching this video, possibly today. We need this win. We need to take 2 of 3 from Texas. We need to beat their crappiest starting pitcher, which is what we're going up against tomorrow. And Marco, this is one of the few pitchers Marco will start against this year that Marco's pitching better than even this year. As bad as Marco has been, he's better than this guy. So if Marco can get it together, you can kind of see it start to work. Not enough to win a playoff series probably, but well enough for this team to make a playoff run, because Logan Gilbert, I know he gave up a couple of home runs yesterday against Texas to kind of muddy the stat line a little bit, but he's good. He looks good, and I know he had that one bad start last week, where he it seemed like he was trying to strike out everybody and wasn't trusting his defense totally, but he's talented. And with Kikuchi flexing, and hopefully Tyler Anderson is just somebody who can take the load off these other guys by sucking up 5 to 6 innings every sixth game. You have something, because Dunn's going to be back eventually. I don't know if I need to give up on Sheffield at this point or not, but he could be back eventually as well. There's some stuff happening here that I'm excited about, but this team still needs to prove that they can do more than just win a lot of one-run games. Because as of right now, we've still got a terrible run differential. We do. And it would not be shocking if this team hit a cold streak. But our schedule is soft the rest of the way. Oakland's schedule the rest of the way is difficult. So if we can take care of business, we should catch them and probably pass them. All right, this video's gone on much longer than most of my Mariners videos, but there's a lot to be excited about right now with the way this team is playing. I'm okay with the trades we made. I know we had an opportunity to maybe really go try to hit a home run, and we didn't. And I know some people were frustrated with that, but I don't think this team is in the right position to be doing things like that. I think this team needs to be playing the long game, and the minor trades they made are just enough to maybe get us into the playoffs because, again, the goal is to win a World Series. And if this team were to give up all their prospects to go get Kyle Schwarber or Chris Bryant or whatever it is that some people wanted to do, I don't really think they'd be good enough to win the World Series. So you have to balance your priorities in a time like this. All right, see you guys later. Go Mariners. Big game tomorrow against the Rangers. Need to take this series, need to take care of business this time, need to put ourselves in position to continue to chase Oakland. See you guys later.